After completing my 10th class exams in 1979, my father suggested that I go and help my father's uncle and learns astrology. Mathematics being my favorite subject, I learned the calculations. My grandfather taught me how to calculate the inclinations of each planet and how to calculate the lagna and the meridian center MC. And he gave me some birth charts to draw. Thus, I learned how to draw the birth charts first and showed interest in predictions. So my grandfather told me some predictions, some of the tips that he usually uses for predictions. And after learning those tips, I documented some of them. I verified with my father. While my father and my grandfather have laid the foundation for me to get interested in astrology, for almost a decade or 2 decades, I didn't show any interest. Welcome to Sastry Karra's astrological series. This is the presentation about the importance of Narayana Dasa. When you go on internet and look for Narayana Dasa, there are number of sites that explains you what exactly is Narayana Dasa, and there are some sites that tells you how to calculate the Narayana Dasa. Right now we don't need to learn how to calculate the Narayana Dasa because the Jehora software, that software calculates the Narayana Dasa automatically when you create the chart. The only thing is you have to figure it out from where can you find it. And once the Narayana Dasa is known, then you can use that Narayana Dasa on the chart and try to predict. This presentation I'm going to take the birth chart of USSR, the rise and fall of USSR. We know that USSR was broken into pieces into different countries somewhere in 84 or 85. So I'm using the Narayana Dasa to figure it out how it rose to such a high position and how it collapsed by 1984. Since we are discussing about the chart of a country, first and the foremost that I would like to explain the Vedic houses for country predictions. If it is the first house, which is the self or tanustanamu for a human, is for the when it comes to the country, it is because assuming that the country is a democratic country, then it will be the health of the condition of that cabinet. If it is a aristocratic country, then it is the condition of the president or the king, whoever is the top ruler. Also the first house deals with public health because tanustanamu is deals about the self. When it is the self, it deals about the particular individual's health. For the country, it is the public health. The second house is Dhanasthanamu. That's the reason why you see it as revenue, stock exchange, banking, and trading. The third house is what you call is house of siblings. But here, when it comes to the country, it's about the mode of income. The fourth house, which is the Sokasthanamu, which by default is the weather and agriculture, and is what is considered for the Sukhasthanamu. The fifth house is education, Putrasthanamu, the same thing. So that's the reason why you see education, children, new births, and sometimes fifth house is also treated for entertainment industry. The sixth house is Rogasthanamu. That's the reason why you see diseases and public health. Here the public health exactly is the same as the public health that you see in the first house. That's the reason why when you are looking at the country, if there is any problem or public health issues in a country, then you have to look at both the first house and the sixth house at the same time. Also, since the sixth house sometimes deals with the military of the country, that's the reason why you have the army, navy, and defense. Seventh house is the foreign relations, And also, so remember, seventh house is the Kalatra Sthanam too. That's the reason they take the emphasis of the crime against the women, the marriages, and because it's a foreign relations, your international disputes and wars on another countries is also part of the seventh house. Eighth house is treasury, debts, and large scale losses. So eighth house is about just animal. That's the reason why you have to look at the large scale losses in a country. If there is any large scale losses to be predicted, then you have to go and look into the eighth house. But don't stop at the eighth house. First look at the first house, which is the public health. Sixth house, which is also the public health, but public health due to diseases. And then comes the eighth house, which is the large scale losses. The ninth house is law and order, which is the dharmasthanamu. And the 10th house is the career for a human being, but when it comes to the country, it is the ruling party or the ruling king or the ruler, which is nothing but the ruler, or if the administration, anything that deals with how to run the government, anything that deals with that is you have to look it from the 10th house. The 11th house is the parliament. Remember, it is the 11th house is the labasthanamu. That's the reason why they look at business groups or business trades within the country. The 12th house is the mokshasthanamu. It is also is also sometimes treated as the place of cure. That's the reason why you have to look at hospitals. And the 12th house is also deals with imprisonments. You have to look at the prisons, asylums, temples, because it's the mokshasthanamu. You have to look at the religious places, and then as usual crimes. So now you have, it's a brief understanding about if you are looking at the country's chart, how do you predict, how do you consider which house needs to be looked at it to predict a particular event or to analyze an existing a past event. Now this actual presentation starts now, and here we are I'm going to present about the rise and fall of USSR using the Narayana Dasa. So USSR was proclaimed on 7th November 1917 around 10 a.m. at Leningrad, Russia, and collapsed on 24th August 1991. So what I'm trying to do is, using the Narayana Dasa, I'm going to look at the Narayana Dasa starting November 1917 and ending all the way till August 1991. I'm going to pick some of the major events that happened in the country during after the USSR was born and then before the USSR got collapsed, and I'm going to try to analyze the reason for that event to happen based on Narayana Dasa. When you look at the chart, the first and the foremost what you see is the USSR's Lagnadipati. The Lagnadipati is Mars. Mars is residing in the 10th house. So when you look at the 10th house, the Vedic house, 10th Vedic house for a country, it talks about ruler if the country is a non-democratic country, or the ruling party if the country is a democratic party, and administration, the day-to-day administrations of that country. So here what you see is that the ruler is Mars, which is a violent planet. So that itself tells you that the ruler is going to be someone that who is more inclined. Whoever is the ruler, forget about who the ruler is, whoever is the ruler, but that particular ruler will be more inclined towards violence, or will have some sort of relationship with crime in criminal lawyer or a criminal justice or something, worked in a criminal department. So this particular USSR country is supposed to have everyone who comes from that particular aspect of life. And then the second house, if you look at it, the second house, you see the Lord is Jupiter, but the second house, what you see is Rahu and Venus are residing. Venus is the 12th house Lord, and Rahu, wherever Rahu sits, he creates a chaos there. So let's go and look at where is Rahu, what it does. Rahu does in the second house. When it is in the second house, it's sure to create some sort of chaos pertaining to revenue, the stock exchange, banking, and trading, which is nothing but the financial part of the country. And now, as if that is not sufficient, Rahu has co-joined with the 12th house Lord Venus, and the 12th house deals with hospitals, prisons, crimes, and place of worship. So the whole country is will be chaotic. Uh, Means sometimes it will be good, sometimes it will be bad. There is no stability in this particular union, and whenever Rahu's role gets activated, or whenever Rahu gets activated, then you see chaos in pertaining to the financial part of the country, financial industry in the country. The third important thing I want to look at is Saturn and Moon. They both are co-joined in the ninth house. Look at it, ninth house lord is Moon. So Saturn, 1, 2, 3 and 4, the third and fourth house lord Saturn is co-joined with the ninth house lord Moon, and they both are residing in the ninth house. First and the foremost, wherever Saturn, we know the rule. One of the BSP rules says that wherever Saturn resides, he rules that house too. So he is the emperor of that house. So apart from owning two houses, the third and fourth, in this chart Saturn owns the ninth house too. Ninth house is Dharmasthanamo, law, courts, and endowment department, and also ninth house sometimes deals with sciences too. So Saturn, the third house lord, third house is transportation, automobiles, railways, and the fourth house is weather, agriculture. So Saturn that owns transportation, automobiles, railways, the newspapers, telephones, telegraph, and the fourth house being the weather and agriculture. So all these things are owned by Saturn, and now that the owner is residing in the ninth house, the Dharmasthanamo, where which the where sometimes the ninth house deals with, apart from dealing with courts and the endowment department, it also deals with sciences, and the ninth house lord Moon is residing in the ninth house itself, co-joined with Saturn. So the USSR, the possibility, that's the one of the reason why the USSR has moved ahead when it comes to the in sciences, when it comes to the most important part of sciences, which is transportation, automobiles, railways, newspapers, weather, and agriculture. And this particular moving ahead, even though they had done so much of advances in sciences because of Saturn and Moon co-joining in the ninth house, most of the advances are not are ninth house is Dharmasthanam. So most of the advances are not suitable for the benefit of the society, which is nothing but adharma. Having said that about the birth chart of the USSR, and I have gone through the most important combinations that needs to be seen, that is found in the USSR birth chart, let me go and look at the Narayana Dasa. This is the actual reason for this presentation, is to analyze the Narayana Dasa. So in Jehora software, there is a one of the tab which calls as the nakshatras. That's when you click it, you will see this which calls as Rasi Dasa. When you click that Rasi Dasa tab, and then you can see that Narayana Dasa is one among them. So for USSR, if you look at it, Narayana Dasa started with Taurus, which is the seventh house from Rashi Lagna. Yes, the seventh. So the whole Narayana Dasa started from Taurus, and then it kept moving on. And if you look at it, after Taurus is the first 7 years is the Taurus, then you got Sagittarius, Cancer, Aquarius, Virgo, Aries, Scorpio, Gemini, Capricorn, Leo. Once the Leo is done, the country got collapsed during the Narayana Dasa of Leo. So let me go in detail to I'm going to take one event at the same time, and then explain from a Narayana Dasa perspective what is the reason for that event to happen. So the first event, as soon as the proclamation has been made, the I just try to go in detail about for the Narayana Dasa at the time of proclamation. And when you look at it, that proclamation happened in the Taurus Mahadasa, which is the seventh house from Rashi Lagna. And when you are looking at the country charts, the seventh house deals with foreign relations, crime against women, marriages, international disputes, and war. So the country, this is the foreign relations, international disputes, and war. These are the three major things that you have to look at it for this country. And then Sagittarius is the second house. The Mahadasa is Taurus, the Antardasa is Sagittarius, and again the Pratyantara Dasa is Taurus, the Sukshmantara Dasa is again Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the second house from Rashi Lagna, and remember, second house deals with the revenue, stock exchange, banking, trading, which all comes under the financial sector of the country. And in second house you see Rahu, the most chaotic planet residing in the second house, and co-joined with the 12th house lord. Oh, not just the 12th, even the 7th house too. Co-joined with the 7th and 12th house lord Venus. So at the time of proclamation itself, the Narayana Dasa shows that the country will not be stable when it comes to the financial part of it. So there will be a point where the country will go through tremendous uh, problems pertaining to the financial sector because of Rahu residing there, which is sure to create some sort of chaos. So let's wait and see what exactly happened to this country, especially when the Sagittarius Mahadasa starts. The next important event that happened for USSR is on 22nd June 1941. That was the day when USSR entered into the World War II. And when you look at the Narayana Dasa for 22nd June 1941, the Cancer is the Mahadasa, Gemini Antaradasa, Libra is the Pratyantara Dasa, and Taurus is the Sukshmantara Dasa. So let's go from back down to the bottom to the top. Taurus is your seventh house. Remember, the seventh house by default talks about international disputes, wars, and foreign relationships. So something went wrong somewhere. That was the reason why you had it. And in seventh house, who is residing in Taurus? In Taurus, who you see is the Jupiter. Jupiter is the second house lord. Second house deals with financial sector. 2, 3, 4, fifth house lord too. So the fifth house deals with education, children, new birth schemes, sports, and cinema, film industry. So Jupiter didn't do much because he just owns the second house, which is the financial sector. This entering into the World War II is indicating that there will be some sort of a financial troubles to the country, and once it enters into this world war. And above that, the Pratyantara Dasa is Libra. Libra is the 12th house. We know that 12th house deals with hospitals, prisons, and sometimes 12th house also deals with crimes. And in a war, crime is by default is known. But if you look at it, who is there in the 12th house in Libra? I should say it as Libra. Who is there in Libra? Libra, you have Mercury, which is the communications, rules the communications, and the Sun. Remember, Sun is the leader. So the 12th house is dealing with the most important part is the leader, and co-joined with Mercury, the communications part. And then comes the Gemini. Gemini is the 8th house lord. Gosh, 8th house deals with large scale losses. So that's what, by entering into the war, the country is bound to face large scale losses, which is the population, large scale population losses. And not only that, because it is the second house, it has an impact. So it goes to the financial sector of the country to the large scale losses and the loss in the financial sector. The next comes is the Mahadasa. The Mahadasa is Cancer. That's the reason why the country entered into war, is because of the Cancer Mahadasa. Cancer Mahadasa, it started even though it started in 1929, if you look at it all the way till 1941 November, it gone through it, and just before the end of it, the country was being forced to enter into the war because Saturn. Remember, I told you right in the beginning how Saturn and Moon impact, Saturn and Moon combination in the ninth house results in adharma, some sort of an act against the dharma, and Saturn already owns the third and fourth houses, and Moon is the ninth house lord residing in Saturn. If you look at it, the another most important thing is Saturn's direct aspect is on the third house, its own house. So naturally, third house deals with transportation, automobiles, railways, all those things. So naturally, in the war, these are the things that are to be used. So the country was being forced to enter into the war at that time, and that was the biggest mistake that the country has done. The next important dasa in the Narayana Dasa is Leo, which started in November 1980 and completed in November 1991. This is the beginning of the collapse of Union USSR. So let's try to understand why did this happen during this period. First and the foremost, Saturn is residing in Cancer with the Lord Moon, and we know that one of the rules that wherever Saturn is residing, he spoils the next house. So Leo, the house which is next to the Saturn's residence, that house got spoiled. First, the house got spoiled. Second, the house lord is Sun. Sun is in Libra, that means it's where it is debiliated. So the house got spoiled, and the house lord got depleted, and the house lord is none other than Sun. Sun means the leader of the country. So this tells you that once the Leo period has Narayana Dasa, according to Narayana Dasa, once the Leo period has started, the downfall, the king or the ruler of that union, the power of that ruler for that union has started falling south, going south, and the downfall of that particular union started in November 1980. So now let's start looking at the Leo Mahadasa, all the events that happened during that Leo Mahadasa, that means between November 1980 and November 1991. The first event that is noticeable is President Brezhnev died on 10th November 1982. And if you look at the Narayana Dasa, it is Leo is the Mahadasa, Libra is the Antardasa, Sagittarius is the Pratyanta Dasa, and Aries is the Sukshmantra Dasa. So let's go one step at a time. Leo, we know that it got spoiled. Libra, that's where the debilitated Sun is residing, who owns the Leo. So now those two has already given us an indication that that particular Leo Mahadasa will be the time when the union will be collapsed. The next one is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the second house lord, where Rahu is residing along with the 12th house lord Venus. So second house is Marakasthanamo, is for the people, it is Marakasthanamo. So for the country, you can say it as the Marakasthanamo of the president or the head of that country. So, and that's one. Next one is Aries. Aries is the sixth house lord. So the disease, that tells you that this particular king or the president of the country will Marakasthanama means will end his or her life due to some disease. That's what exactly happened on 10th November 1982. The second event that happened between 1980 and 1991 is the death of President Andropovo Uh, he died on 9th February 1984. Again, Leo is the Mahadasa, Scorpio, the Lagnadipati, is the Antardasa, and Leo is the Pratyantardasa, and above all, Sagittarius, the second house lord, is second house is the Sukshmantardasa. So it clearly tells you that something wrong is going to happen to the king or the ruler of that country, and what you be noticed is the death of the president. The next event that happened in during this Leo Mahadasa is the death of the president Chernenko. This is the third president that died after the Leo Mahadasa started. That is on November 1980, and this president died on 10th March 1985. The Leo Mahadasa is still running. Capricorn Antardasa, Leo Pratyantardasa, and Aries Sukshmantardasa. The speciality here is the Capricorn. If you look at Capricorn, it is the seventh house from Saturn, and Saturn owns its own house. So the Leo, that is the third house. Yeah, Leo, the king is the sun. Sun has been depleted, so anything that happens to within that Leo Mahadasa and Leo Pratyantardasa or Leo Sukshmantardasa, Antardasa or Pratyantardasa is sure to deal with something that's pertaining to the president of that country. The next biggest disaster that happened during the Leo Mahadasa is the Chernobyl disaster, which is happened on 25th April 1986. Yeah, in 1986, 25th April 1986, Leo Mahadasa, Aquarius Antardasa, Taurus Pratyantardasa, and Gemini Sukshmantardasa. So the only thing that I can tell is that Leo Mahadasa is sure to create some mess up. That's we know it. Aquarius is the fourth house. The fourth house from Rashi Lagna, which is the home life environment, and then Taurus is the seventh house from Rashi Lagna, and Gemini is the eighth house. Eighth house, if you look at the country, the eighth house means mass loss of life for a huge number of people, which is the eighth house here. Remember, Rahu is directly look from the second house is directly looking in the eighth house. The eighth house Lord Mercury is co-joined in the 12th house with the debilitated Sun, and Jupiter, who is in the second house Lord, is in the seventh house, which is Taurus. So Taurus, Gemini, and Leo, these are three are the major reasons for some disaster to happen in the country, and Aquarius is that's the Antardasa that exactly it happened. As I said earlier, the another disaster that the country has noticed. This is the fifth event or fifth disaster during the Leo Mahadasa. It is the Armenian earthquake, which happened on 7th December 1988. If you look at as usual, the Antardasa, the most important here is Antardasa is the Gemini. Gemini is the eighth house. As I said, the eighth house will result in the huge number of death of people, huge. And Aries is the sixth house. Aries is the sixth house, and Sagittarius is the second house. All these things are related to in such a way that something happens that relates to the death of huge number of people in the country. That's exactly what happened on that day. The next event that happened during the Leo Mahadasa is not only the collapse of the union, but the weak president has resulted into change in the ruling methodology. From a communist country, it started converting into a democratic country, and on 12th June 1991, just few months before the end of Leo, Boris Yeltsin was elected as the president of Russia, and around that time, around this 1990 and 1991 is when the United USSR is started to break up into different small countries. And if you look at it, is Leo, as usual, the Mahadasa, Virgo, the ruler Mercury, and Pisces is the fourth, one, two, three, four, fifth house, and Aries is the sixth house. So the most important thing here we need to do is the Virgo, role of Virgo. Virgo is the house owned by Mercury, and here you see the Mercury has co-joined with the Sun in a debilitated Sun, and the Mahadasa is so something pertaining to the change in leadership is noticeable. And because of Pisces, which is the fifth house, and the Aries, which is the sixth house, and the sixth house Lord Mars is residing in the Leo, which whose Mahadasa is running. So something that has happened, that has Mars is violent, so some sort of a violence will be occurring, which results in the change of leadership. That's exactly what you noticed with Boris Elson being democratically elected there. So this is the last event in during the Leo Mahadasa, that means before the end of November 1991. On 24th August 1991, the Union got fully collapsed. So the United States, USSR did not exist after 24th August 1991. So when you look at the Narayana Dasa, the Virgo Antardasa is still there. Remember the previous Virgo Antardasa, we got Boris Yeltsin being elected as democratically elected as the president of Russia, and then we have the Gemini. Gemini is the eighth house. Again you got Libra. Libra is the place where the debilitated Sun and the eighth house Lord Mercury are residing, and Sukshma Pratyantara Dasa PAD is Scorpio, which is the Lagnadipati. So you can see how many negative forces are there that has caused the collapse of this union.